Hola, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo están? Buenos días, tardes, noches. No sé a qué hora estén viendo esto, pero bienvenidos a Formación Escopeta. Mi nombre es Miguel Ángeles y tengo una entrevista bastante interesante. Como pueden ver, está aquí conmigo Renee Washington. Ahorita les voy a contar un poco acerca de ella, porque la verdad es una persona que tenía muchas ganas de conocer y de platicar, y pues le agradezco mucho que está aquí con nosotros. Renee, thank you very much for being here. It's such an honor.
Yeah, Miguel, muchas gracias. Estoy feliz en este programa. I think I said that correctly.
You got it perfectly. Excelente. You got it right. Okay, well, as you got, well, you showed you speak Spanish. That's great. And well, don't worry, we will talk in English. I know that you have this experience in Spanish, but you're still not comfortable doing the entire interview in Spanish.
No, I know. I actually was able to understand what you were saying. I'm just not a great Spanish speaker when it comes to like on the spot being able to think of exactly what I have to say. I'm slower with that process, but I do understand it a lot. So as you were speaking, I was like listening to and understanding everything you were saying. But I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
You just need practice.
Yeah.
Algún día. Necesitas práctica.
Sí. And I honestly I love this because I need to practice. That's the only way to get better at it, but just not on a show, maybe.
Well, yeah, maybe this is not the best time to do it.
She's awful at Spanish. Get her out of here.
Don't worry. Like
algún día puedo hablar en español por todo el programa.
That would be awesome. Yes, we will love that. Okay. Hopefully it will be on this show or somewhere else that you can speak in Spanish the entire show. Okay, I will just say a couple of things. I was reading your biography a little bit. You work with ESPN. You work also with Fox Sports. You cover soccer. You cover basketball. You cover football. Renee, what don't you do?
Speak fluent, great Spanish.
Okay.
We're working on that too. Honestly, in all seriousness, I like to learn a lot of things, which is the irony that we're even having this conversation about me wanting to be better at speaking Spanish, because I just feel like when life gives you all these different resources and opportunities, why not? So for me with covering sports, it's just a way, every sport, every league, every network. I work in college and professional sports. So that is honestly even different in itself. And it just allows me to continue to fine tune different aspects of who I am as a reporter and honestly just as a sports personality. So I'm always trying to learn more. So that's why right now I'm also learning French. But I'm always trying to learn other things because I just feel like life is too short to put ourselves in a box and be stuck with only doing one thing. At some point, maybe I'll be doing one thing, but until then, I'm enjoying, working in all these different areas.
Yes, and I was just starting with your presentation. Like you talk about a lot of sports. You also host a digital show, like it's Beyond the Headlines, and you even have musicians and stuff like that, and that's great. And also, well, sometimes you cover the Philadelphia Union games, the Washington Wizards, the Washington Mystics from the WNBA, and also you created an organization called Planted Not Buried. I love when I read about that because you focus on providing support and networking for professionals, and I love the concept that nobody is being buried. You're being planted because you're going to grow into something better. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I love that you did your research. Yes, honestly, that is something that I've been sitting on for a while and just wanting to create because I think there's a need for it. So around the pandemic, I was like, you know what? Why not now? This seems like the best time as we're having this conversation. You're in Puebla, I'm in New Jersey. We can have conversations from all around the world. And so to connect with others doesn't have to be done in a way that's going to involve flying somewhere or even be expensive. Everything that I do around Planted Not Buried is free. And I'm actually excited that this upcoming, starting in January in 2022, I'm going to really be picking things up a lot because it is new. This was the first year of it. I was just trying to lay the foundation of it. But I am going to be doing more like community initiatives and more events and just more to give to people, to be able to have opportunities to not only learn and network, but also give back and pay it forward. I just think there's such value in that. We're all struggling in our own way and working through our own seasons of feeling buried and feeling like we have failed or not where we want to be, or comparing ourselves, or just feeling like it's not happening for us right in this moment. So I'm just trying to use it as a platform to, regardless where you are in the world, what your profession is, where you are within your profession, we're in different chapters of life, but within those chapters, all need to understand that we're being planted, and that you've been planted and you're working towards something even better. So that is the goal. I mean, I know I'm going to keep going back to the Spanish comment, but that's a great example. Like, I'm in this period right now where I am like killing myself trying to learn it and be better at it, because I want to one day be able to have the conversation with you. We're all working through something, whether it's a challenge, a lesson, or even just a step back, where we're trying to figure out what's next and how do I get there. So that really is, for me, my own way of using my platform for the better good to help other people.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I'm sure you will get into better things with this. It sounds like a great project. As you say, you're just getting started, and I love that, because most of the times people feel that they are buried in a place, like, oh, I'm stuck at work. I'm stuck in a bad situation. And sometimes you are just being planted, as you said, and maybe you are destined to grow, and you don't know it yet.
Exactly.
It's good. It's good. We love that. And well, it's great to know that all of these aspects that you have, because, well, sometimes when we see people talking about sports, it's maybe like we think that they are only focused on that, and that's such a big problem, thinking that because you talk about football, you don't talk about anything else in your life. And I mean, this YouTube channel is about talking about football and about the NFL, but we also like to know people from the other sides, their other sides of life.
Exactly.
And well, we need to focus on football, obviously, because that's what people are here to talk about and they want to listen to. But it was great to give this little introduction about yourself, because now we know you a little bit better.
Yes, thank you.
And well, so far we have finished 8 weeks of the NFL. We're going to week number 9, so we're getting to the middle of the season. I want to know, Renee, if you can choose the biggest surprise of the year so far for you, maybe a team, a player, I don't know, which one would you choose?
The biggest surprise, I definitely have been enjoying the Rams, and that of their trade with Denver for Von Miller is like a cheat code. It's insane. Like, their defense is going to be incredible to watch, and so I've been really impressed with how they've been playing this season, but also even the Chargers. I know they just lost this past weekend to the Patriots, but Justin Herbert and the Chargers are a team that you can't take lightly. And at first I was thinking it was maybe some early season, I don't like to use the word luck, but just some early season momentum, but it's been consistent. So those are definitely surprises in a good way. And then, of course, I think anybody would agree, the Chiefs. But it's not fully a surprise. I just think it's a surprise that they've lost so many games. But I definitely had a feeling people are going to catch up. Tom Brady is an exception because of the fact that he's a spectacular player. But as a team, when you don't make a lot of major changes in the offseason as to what your roster looks like and your especially your O-line, I think that is where other opponents can now start to figure you out. And I think that's what's happening with the Chiefs. Now, I still think come playoff time, it's going to be a completely different team that, having had these losses early on, will actually help them, because they're going to go into the postseason like even more focused. It's hard going into postseason after postseason with these high expectations. The expectations are not there right now for the Chiefs. We've switched and put that pressure on other teams, such as Tampa Bay or the Rams. So I think that they're still going to be a dangerous team later on in the season, but those are definitely my early surprises across the league, without a doubt.
Okay, and well, speaking about the Chiefs, because obviously they are one of the biggest talking points right now in the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, after watching them on Monday night, like struggling to beat the Giants, like nobody would have thought that the Chiefs will be like under so much trouble to beat a decimated team like the Giants. And well, some people are talking about Patrick Mahomes as like they have figured this guy out. He's not as good as people believe or people used to say he is. I keep saying that he's putting too much pressure on himself. Like he's trying to overdo things. He can do things, but he's trying to do like a little extra that he's not needed to do, and he's trying to compensate for what the rest of the team is lacking. What's your point of view about Mahomes?
Yeah, no, I actually completely agree. You know, you look at the game itself, if you really pay attention, I know he's had a number of turnovers and picks. It is because of exactly that. I just feel like Patrick Mahomes is trying too many times when he could just throw the ball away. Or don't get sacked, don't get a turnover, just throw the ball away. But he's
Mm-hmm.
trying too hard to still make something out of it. And I think that might be because in the past they've had that magic to them where they were able to on a third down make a big play, whereas now sometimes you just got to start small, take those baby steps. And especially with the fact that other teams, this is the other part of it, other teams are not only playing their best games against Tom Brady and Tampa Bay, but also the Chiefs. This is a team that is circled on everybody's calendar. They're excited to play them. If you're the Giants, it doesn't matter if you don't have Saquon Barkley. It doesn't matter if you have a Daniel Jones who's been banged up. It doesn't matter who's out there because you're going to go into the game and you're going to bring your best. And I think that is the issue that we're seeing, that they're now doing, the Chiefs are doing too much instead of just making the simple plays at times. And then the offense as a whole has definitely struggled, which is why Patrick Mahomes has been trying to do so much. But you're not going to score 30 points in one play. You've got to take it play by play. Move the sticks, keep it, keep the ball, don't get a turnover, make the simple play. Whereas I think he's unfortunately getting caught up in overthinking and trying to be a hero. And looking at the Chiefs at 500, like you said, barely beating the Giants on Monday night. That's a close game. But I just think that it's because on the other side, a lot of teams really are getting up to play Kansas City and really knows how to play them at this point. And the Chiefs have to go back to the drawing board. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes almost was out. We saw him get injured. Got to find ways to now that's the next part of it. Keep him healthy, keep the team healthy, and make adjustments, because you don't want this to go the other way where he's mentally getting beat up, which turns into him physically getting beat up. And now the Chiefs are without Patrick Mahomes, and that's a whole dumpster fire of a season. So I agree with you completely. I think that they need to just take it one play at a time, stop overthinking the record or anything else, and just play football. Just make the simple play.
I completely agree. And you see this kind of plays where he throws the interception or he fumbles the ball. He's holding the ball a little bit too much time, or he's trying to make the throw when there's no one to throw to. So that's one of his biggest problems right now. And well, speaking of other teams that are like making the rounds in the news now, what about the Cincinnati Bengals? I love this story because we were talking about the Bengals after the draft. Like, why do they draft Jamar Chase when they don't have an O-line? I was one of the guys who was telling, oh, no, they made a mistake. They should have drafted Sewell out of Oregon because they need someone to protect Joe Burrow. How much time is he going to have to throw the ball to Jamar Chase? Turns out he doesn't need a lot of time. The guy is flying around the field, making catches every single game. And when we were just starting to believe in the Bengals, here come the New York Jets out of any other team, the
Right.
Jets, with Mike White on the quarterback position, and they beat the Bengals. So what do we make out of the Bengals? What's your opinion about them, Renee?
Honestly, I still enjoy, and I even said this on Sunday, I really do enjoy watching Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow together. That duo is electric. They're young. You've got a first and second year player. You've got franchise leading players that will be able to help grow this Bengals program. I think what we saw in the loss to the Jets, which honestly surprised me too, don't get me wrong, is just the youth of this group. I think that's a big part of it. They've got some great pieces even around them. A player like Joe Mixon, T. Higgins, they've got great players around them, but the team as a whole is not going to make that big leap. It's going to take time. Joe Burrow, obviously, we know even got injured last year and was out with an ACL. So although he played, leading up into that injury against Washington, he didn't have a full season. So a lot of what we're still seeing from Joe is even what we're getting from Jamar of rookie tendencies. And I just think the team as a whole still has a long way to go to be consistently in the mix of being a top team in the league. But you know what? I look back at that Packers game where they had the 5 missed field goals, and I'm like, that is the game the Bengals should have won. That's knocking off a top team. The Packers have won 7 straight or whatever the number is now. That's a
7.
top. Yeah, that's a top team, and you could have won that game, should have won that game. So although the Jets' loss might point to the fact this team isn't where they could be, I think on the other side, you can even say a loss like the Packers game, they could be on the other side of that with a victory as well. So I just think it's a young group, but honestly, with those two, if they can keep those two in Cincinnati and healthy, this is a team that a year, 2 years from now, we're having conversations around deep in the playoffs and possibly even, I'm going to go as far as say Super Bowl contention, because they are fun. They make big plays, and like you said, Joe doesn't need a lot of time, but he's making it happen. So I think they're going to continue to build, and that loss is just a minor setback, but I don't know. That's what we're at right now, right? Week to week action. You can't really predict who is going to truly win, or who. It might look on paper like this is an easy Bengals win, and then here comes the Jets with, as you mentioned, backup quarterback Mike White, and they had different plans. So I love it though. I do like that part about this season. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I mean, me too. I mean, as a fan, you love the fact that you don't know what's going to happen.
Yep.
Every single game, like you see the Giants battling the Chiefs in a very close game, the Jets beating the Bengals, and then you see the Saints beating the Buccaneers.
Exactly.
Like,
with Jameis Winston going down, and I cannot believe he tore his ACL. I feel for him because he's been playing so well and has gotten this group at a spot where they really do trust him. Of course, there were so many question marks. Him coming from Tampa Bay with the amount of turnovers and interceptions that he threw, them coming off of Drew Brees, one of the best quarterbacks ever, to now have a franchise, have a whole new quarterback. That was a lot of pressure, and he handled it very well. And then that was like their Super Bowl championship game for me. Like that to me was like the peak of possibly what we might see from the Saints. I don't know, but just a shame that he's injured, but an incredible win on his behalf. They definitely did it for him to knock off Tampa Bay, because that was also an unexpected victory that I called, though. I did call that, but unexpected to many.
No, I mean, and a lot of people thought that the Saints had like the chance to beat the Bucs, especially because of Sean Payton. He has a winning record against Tom Brady-led teams.
That's so true. True.
Like out of any stat that you can get from the NFL, that's like super wild.
He knows how to beat Tom.
He knows how to beat Tom Brady, and not a lot of people can say that. And that's weird. But now, what can we expect from the Saints? Now they have like Trevor Siemian as their quarterback. They are looking maybe at other options. Philip Rivers just said that if they call him, they can listen to the talks from the Saints. So what would you do? If you were the Saints, what's your next step?
Yeah, I think they can still rely heavily on a player like Alvin Kamara. I think that even Mark Ingram, like they still have other players that they can kind of lean on, but you're going to need a quarterback. And I don't know enough about Trevor Siemian to know if he can finish out the season. Like you said, we're halfway through. So it's a lot of games, a lot of snaps that he has to play. But I think if they can make a trade happen, make something happen, why not? It's just a sad predicament to be in, but it might have happened early enough where they can still make some moves to build around and be able to finish strong. Because this is still a good Saints team. This doesn't drop them drastically now to suddenly being one of the worst teams in the league. They still have a lot of talent across this roster, but they're going to have to be a little bit more creative and really make. I'm sure as we're having this conversation, I'd hope and like to think that they are too, of like, okay, what should we be doing? Because Jameis is out for the rest of the year, obviously, and we don't know exactly when or how he will come back even for next year. So we got to plan long term. ACLs are never an injury that's easy to come back from. Some players do it well, some players do not, unfortunately. So you definitely want to make sure that you're thinking long term of how can we get a quarterback in and who is that quarterback. That part I don't know, because obviously we've been hearing a lot of discussions around different quarterbacks around the league and where they could potentially be moved and who's going to be trying to get Deshaun Watson or Tua or all these different names that pop up. Now, I don't think either of those names make sense for the Saints, but like you said, a Phillip Rivers, you don't know who can they call. It's got to be somebody, though. In my opinion, I'd be trying to call and bring somebody in.
Absolutely. And they also mentioned Cam Newton as a possibility for the Saints. And that will be weird to see Cam dressed as a Saint. That will be something to look for.
I think that would be now that move would be a no-brainer to me, to bring Cam Newton in, because I think he does bring a lot of what Jameis Winston does as well. Okay. Like I'm not saying they're the same player. Let me just clarify that. But I do think that bringing in someone like Cam Newton, he'd be able to handle this offense really well, of having the confidence of whether sometimes they need to run the ball, sometimes they throw, he has that flexibility. I think he'd be a great addition to this offense. If you're looking at the available quarterbacks in this moment, I'd go Cam.
Yeah, I guess that will be the best option right now for the Saints, because basically there's no one else that they can plug in and try to keep the winning ways going. And well, speaking of keeping the winning ways, what about the Tennessee Titans? The Titans lost Derrick Henry. They say it's not for the season, but it's 10 weeks. Yeah. So that's basically the rest of the season. So maybe he can come back for the playoffs. And the Titans look like a lock-in the division, because with the Colts and the Jaguars and the Texans, in the state that they are, the Titans look poised to win the division. But what are they going to do after that? How many games are they going to win next? Now here comes Adrian Peterson. I love the move. I think he's a really good backup option. You don't have Derrick Henry, who's by far the best running back in the NFL right now. But Adrian Peterson is not something to take lightly, right? What do you think about AP in Tennessee?
I like the move. Again, injuries. I just cannot believe Derrick Henry. As soon as the news came across that it's possibly a season ending and then he's going to need surgery. And of course, as you're mentioning, they're hoping to get him back. There's a lot of hopes. That's a lot up in the air still. So why not bring in someone like AP? You don't need him to win the game for you. You need him to just get you yards. That's it. And I just think it's a shame the timing of it, because the Titans are coming off. Obviously, that win against the Chiefs was like that. Okay, that was okay, Tennessee, you've got our attention now. I mean, the win, then they beat the Bills the week before. They've been getting a lot of really impressive results, and just the way they've been winning too. They held the Chiefs to 3 points. It's incredible to watch how Tennessee has been playing, and Tennessee is a team that over the last few years, look at what they've done in the postseason. They've fallen short, but they've had a roster that looked like it had potential to go the distance and have underperformed come playoff time. So I think it's going to be, what can they do in these next games? I know they have the Rams coming up. What can they do in these next games in the second half of the regular season? And then also, how are they going to look into the playoffs? Because to me, the Titans have been a team that I expect them to reach the playoffs. I do. But what will they do after that? To me, that's not where the bar is. It's like them, the Bills. There are certain teams. It's not enough to just make it to the playoffs and make it to the second round. Can you get into the Super Bowl? That's what your goal is. So absolutely. I think short term to bring in AP makes complete sense. Now, as you can work to bring back Derrick Henry over the next 10 weeks, see how he's going to come back. I have a feeling that with his strength and just the way he plays, I think he'll be okay. I don't know for sure. A foot is hard, but I think that at least gives them some leeway that whenever he does come back, they can now still ease him back in and not have to rush to throw him back in. But that's a painful injury there, to lose, literally and figuratively, to lose Derrick Henry at this point of the season with how great he's been playing and the Titans have been playing.
Absolutely. And you were saying they beat back to back the Bills and the Chiefs.
Oh yeah.
And they gave a show on both games. Like they
Mhm.
were putting on a show. Derrick Henry was looking great. They were having trouble against the Colts. Now we know why. Derrick Henry was hurt.
Exactly.
Like, oh, okay, now I understand why Derrick Henry was not playing well against the
Mhm.
Colts.
That's what we were all saying. What's up with Derrick Henry? What's up with the Titans? But now it makes sense.
Makes total sense now. But and there they are. Well, so now we have these teams like the Titans. The Browns are losing players all the way around, and they are falling in
Mhm.
the division. We have the Chiefs with a lot of problems, and in this moment that we're about to close the interview in a couple of minutes, if you had to choose one team as the leader of the pack in the AFC, which team would you choose?
Oof. It's still hard because of the fact that, let's take this past week, for example. Like you talked about the amount of injuries. If
Mm-hmm.
we're having this conversation a week ago with a healthy Jameis, with a healthy, I'm not saying for a leader of a division, but I'm just saying in general, looking big picture across the league, a healthy Derrick Henry, these conversations are different. We don't know a week from now, and I'm hoping we don't have any major injuries, but injuries happen every single week.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't know who that's going to be this upcoming week and the week after that. So as of today, when we're having this conversation, I do still like, oh gosh, this is still not an easy one. I do still like the top teams in the AFC. I'm going to start with that,
Sure.
without a doubt. I'm still going to keep the Titans in that, the Ravens, the Chargers, and the Bills and Chiefs. So there's 5.
Okay.
There's
Fair
5.
enough.
And then from that group, I do think the Bills honestly have been consistently a top AFC team, and I can't ever discredit Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. So I'm going to put them in that mix as well. But again, it could be, we have no idea what's going to happen with the Browns through injuries. We have no idea what's going to happen with the Titans. We have, there's a lot of question marks around the division as a whole. But I'm going to go Bills and Ravens as my top 2 teams in the AFC as of today from what I've been seeing.
Okay. And in the NFC, who do you like?
Yeah, the AFC is a little different. So the NFC, I still am loving the Cardinals. That loss to the Packers, oh my goodness, that felt like a Super Bowl game. That was incredible. But I'm gonna still go with the Cardinals as the top team right now. And then in that mix, though, the Rams and the Packers. I said honestly, after bringing in Von Miller, I could see the Rams winning the Super Bowl in LA, since that's where it's at this year. I could see that happening. So those are without a doubt my top 3. But you can't ever count out Tom Brady. So I'm going to still put him in the mix. But I think, and I said this last year, but they won, I think that other teams are better than Tampa Bay. I really do. I feel like last year, although they won the Super Bowl, so it's hard to argue that they shouldn't have. They did. But I'm going to go Cardinals at the top, then the Rams and Packers, and then Tampa Bay is, of course, in that mix as well. Number 4.
Okay, yeah. And you are not putting in that league the Cowboys.
Oh, I don't ever like to give the Cowboys any credit.
I know.
Especially since come playoff time, the Cowboys always find a way to beat themselves. So regular season, they look like, and I actually just tweeted this today and was sharing this, like, who do you think is going to win the NFC East? And people are like, ha, 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 it's got to be the Cowboys. I'm like, I don't know, actually. The Eagles just won their 3rd game. There's still a lot of games left to be played, and the Cowboys find a way to beat the Cowboys and beat themselves. So although I don't know if any of the other 3 teams in the NFC East will be able to win enough games to catch up, even if the Cowboys make the playoffs, whoever comes out of the NFC East in the playoffs, I should say, I don't imagine doing anything past that first round. So I think they have a good chance of getting there. But I think they're going to get there and do their thing. One and done is my hope.
That's like what recent history tells us about the Dallas Cowboys. And I agree with you. Until they prove the opposite, we will believe that the Cowboys are meant to be one and done in the playoffs, because that's what they do. Like recently, like since this century started, that's what they have been doing.
The only thing that I think actually makes me a little bit nervous is when, after having that terrible injury last year, I feel like Dak has come into the season with a renewed focus.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like he's mentally in a different space where he's takes every game with much more of just more gratitude. And so he's not going into any game lightly. So I think he alone is what could get the Cowboys over that hump to come out of the NFC East and keep them from dropping off at the end of the regular season. But I still don't think it will be enough in the playoffs. That's kind of the way I'm looking at it.
Okay. We will see what happens. This is, as you were saying, just the middle of the season. We're halfway through. There's a lot of football to be played. There's a lot of things to see. We need to wait to have a better idea of who is going to be the leader in each division. Right now, we're about to close this interview. This was just the first time we will talk with you, because I can tell all the audience right now that you will be doing a little conversation with Inigo and me in Somos Washington, the show we have about the Washington football team, because you had the chance to work there for a couple of weeks, and you can share your experience and what you see about the team. That will be for another time, right?
Absolutely.
Because, well, I can tell you, it has been such a pleasure to talk to you about football. It's obvious that you love the game, that you love to watch football, just like all of us do. And that's what we like about these kind of conversations, to get to know people from all around the world who love the same sport that we do and who share the same passion as us. So I want to thank you for taking your time to come talk with me for a couple of minutes about football.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This has been so much fun. I've enjoyed it. Still reminds me I've got a lot of work to do on the Spanish front. But I'm honestly so excited that we've had the chance to connect, and I'm looking forward to the next conversation as well to keep it going.
Yeah, it's going to be next week, actually. Well, on November the 10th, 10 de noviembre, René va a estar con nosotros para platicar en Somos Washington de lo que está pasando pues en toda la temporada del Washington Football Team. I'm talking in Spanish to give you a little practice.
I'm with you.
Ok. De hecho, vamos a tener un programa especial porque vamos a tener no nada más a René, vamos a estar Íñigo y yo, y vamos a tener una tercera host. Por primera vez, vamos a tener una host mujer en Somos Washington, en honor a René, que nos va a estar visitando. Entonces ya verán quién es nuestra tercera anfitriona. Y bueno, René, muchas gracias por estar conmigo platicando un rato de NFL. Ha sido un verdadero placer.
Muchas gracias. Y espero que la próxima vez puedo hablar el tiempo en español algún día, pero ahora estoy feliz con aquí y hablar en inglés. Pero gracias, muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, René. You did it great. You're getting there. That was a good practice.
You know what it is? I get really nervous. I'm not going to lie. I am really good at speaking this is so sad. I am really good at speaking in Spanish to kids because I feel like they're younger and my Spanish level, I feel like, is on some of theirs. Like elementary school kids I'm talking about. But in terms of adults, I'm like, nope, you guys can read right through me. You know that I'm not that's not my first language, but it makes me nervous. So this is great practice because I'm like, okay, I got that. We're getting there.
You're getting there. So, thank you very much. A todos, gracias por ver esta entrevista. Ya saben, si le pueden dar like al video, suscribirse al canal, todas esas cosas, se los vamos a agradecer. Nos vemos en la próxima. Pásenla bien. Bye.